Good afternoon. This is Craig here. I'm out on today is December 15th, out in the shop. I'm just looking outside. I do have my winter panels up for wind protection, and it allows me to heat so I can get out here and get work done. As you notice, I do have the Spyder up on blocks, well, my service blocks. They're just basically car ramps from Harbor Freight. Very portable, very useful for the bike. Getting prepared to do the seasonal oil change. It is the winter season oil change, or post-season oil change, next season, however you want to look at it. On my schedule, I ride, well, this year my wife and I rode 5,000 combined miles this year. So we're due a synthetic oil change. I only use synthetic oil in the RS-S. It has a very finely milled and closely spec'd V-twin motor that runs at high RPM, so you want heat management, heat control throughout. I recommend, and this seems odd, mind you, my base temperature for my environment, I average 106 degrees and vast amounts of sunshine. I ride with a passenger also. I won't lie, life has been kind to my wife and I, so we do put probably 500 pounds on the bike in passenger weight. Excuse me. And camera equipment, because we like to shoot film and DLSR pictures out the trike as we travel. Back to the oil change, I do recommend using fully synthetic. I use AMSOIL. I go with the best. I've used AMSOIL products from 2 cycles in my race snowmobiles when I was a kid. For the last 30 to 40 years, through every competitive motorcycle I've ever built, purchased, or ran, has featured at a minimum Mobil 1. But AMSOIL is always the pinnacle standard, especially if I know my money's on the line and I'm going to be meeting people on the line, especially if a title's on the line. I want that craft to be well lubricated and running cool. I also run the recommended weights for Can Am's in typical environments and standard environments. Mind you, these are written by Canadian and French engineers who do not see the temperatures extremes that I have in my environment. They run 540. I do recommend, even in most American environments, switch to 1050. You'll notice this is a dirt bike oil, but AMSOIL basically is AMSOIL. You want to call it dirt formulation. I guess if it gets dirty, it'll handle it. But come on, motor oil's motor oil. You check the API standards, you check the coating on the back, you check this information for what you need to see if it's compatible. Again, most people will raise the nose at 1050. That's you're not in 106 degree average temperature in summers. And 10 weight is plenty light enough for me to start in 30 degree weather. I don't worry about that. I also highly recommend only using Can for your oil filters. It's worth the extra expense. The filter systems for 2 things for the RS-S are unique. If you have a 2008 to 2011, order the standard oil change kit from BRP, from Le Monster, any of those places, and you will receive all of the necessary filters in the correct size that you need. However, and for 2013 on through 2016 or your ST line, same thing. Feel free to order that kit, it's the same thing. However, the 2012 is a very unique beast. It incorporated a lot of changes from the initial releases, or Generation 1 to Generation 2, which is the second iteration of the RS-S, the 2013 to 2016. But Generation 1 had a number of different features. They added 8 cc's more bore. They did things a little differently, but the big thing, and the mindful thing that can cause problems, and it's particularly in the 2012, is this little filter. This is your standard BRP transmission filter. And if you note, And if you were to examine it, it looks very similar to the ones that you're going to use in the standard 08 to 011s. It's 3/8 of an inch longer. So if you have a 2012 and a 2012 Spyder RS or RS-S only the 2012. It's rather hard to determine which production dates because all these changes came in from Gen 1 to Gen 2 in what you call the mid-year release. So if you bought a late 2012, you got the 2013. Happens all the time, you know. I'm just stating this because if you were to put a standard filter kit in a 2012 with this, I think they call it a HED filter, it's on the box, with the wrong length, you'll notice two things. There'll be bypass flow in your filter system, so your synthetic, and trust me, if you're burning synthetic, it's all expensive. Oil will brown within 2 to 3 weeks. This happened to me on the last oil change, before this one that I did this spring. I had to do 2 this spring because I ordered from Monster a standard oil change kit, was even assured that it would work in my 2012 model. Thank you, Baja Ron, for pointing out this difference. Go to his eBay site and order this kit only if you're running the 2012. Baja Ron was also kind enough to explain to me that you do want to get seals each and every time. They're a leaky beast, so you make sure and get fresh ones and fresh copper seals for your plugs. He also pointed out that if you want it now, when this problem first or issue came up, you know dealers, hey, come on in and we'll take care of it. We've got a free upgrade through the recall services. And so they asked you to bring it in. But being these beasts are now obsolete, no service bulletins have been published in years. Even in the BUD system, nothing's advised of this. You need to recognize whether or not you've had this particular recall work done, because the filter lengths are different. If you put a standard filter into the filter length of, or into the housing of an HED or extended version, you're going to get, and I wish that you could see it closer, but I'm not going to move the camera. I'll do a mental note when I'm doing the work. You're going to get oil bypass from this small filter here. So you need to make sure you get the correct one. And again, I'm going to say this a third time and take the extra time, because in hot weather, and if you don't pay attention to what's going on, you can ruin an oil change in 3 weeks and burn your motor down thinking, I've got plenty of miles left on my oil change because your filter's too short. Don't think that it can't happen. It does. People are going to argue with me. I don't care. Make sure on the 2012 only that you have, whether or not you need to determine whether or not you have the extended HED filter or whether or not you have the regular filter. It's honestly a very simple test. Let's see if I can find mine real quick. But I happen to know, say this hose extension is a little bit over 1 inch by example, so I can use this for a quick measure. I go and check my filter housing. Look at that. It's probably 1 3/8 to 1 1/4 for sure, but looks like more like 1 3/8, even bordering on the shy side of 1 1/2 inches. That means I have the HED filter. Don't make this mistake. Thank you, Monster, for the fine quality products that you do sell, but Baja runs your solution for the 2012, and he sells a specific kit for this extended filter version. You'll see 2 on his eBay site who want this one. Also, just another pitch toward Baja Run, if you haven't gotten his stabilizer bar and ends, you're wrong, especially on the RS-S, especially if you're riding candies. So from this point on, though, for the remainder of my services, I'm going to be going into the various steps of the services. I skinned one skin just to take, my oil heights and prepare and order, but I will be deskinning the midsections of the bikes. I've got to get to the top of the filter structure where, what we think of classically on a tank and on a bike. And I have a different air filter. I use a system from a shop called JT's Spyder Shop, or Spyder Store, I think it is. Google it, it comes up. It's a smaller shop. It's something that somebody's built in Wix, but Wix, the website. But it allows me to use a standard 4694, 46094 Wix filter, or a Can 44E, excuse me, E4425 Can filter. They're honestly an air filter for a John Deere lawn tractor, but it is a high flow air intake. So on my system, I have the high flow air intake that we'll see later in the film that I'll point out. I have the expanded MSD wiring plugs. I run synthetic oil, and I'll be demonstrating more features as I go along in the work. Other than that, I did want to take the extra time to make sure that to go through all this. Also, make sure you bring 6 quarts. I've always found that when I'm doing my oil change, everybody sends you 5. I always end up needing the 6th, just because of either mistake or prone, making errors in your process, spilling stuff, whatever. Other than that, like I said, as I work through and visit with you over time here, I'll be doing the actual work at a lower level so you can view the actions some more. And I'm also going to wait another day because we are going through our big blizzard. This is preceding the bad weather that's going to hit the Midwest tomorrow. I will advise you, everybody's talking the winds. I had 105-mile-an-hour winds today. I was walking from this garage westward. I have a half acre here, so it's probably 100 feet of front line on the street, a little bit over, I think. I got 80 feet down what would be my walkway, and the gust came up the valley and hit me, and I did not stop until I was back on my trash can, which was still full, and I was able to grab it 80 feet back on the eastern property line by one gust, and it ripped all my handling down. I had to re-nail everything and reset everything up. So the weather that's advising of high winds and cold weather, buckle down. If we're getting weather like this at my elevation and my location, it's going to get nasty in Nebraska.